Hello. Hello, my name is Keshwani. It's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to improve our English. We want to improve our vocabulary. Yesterday was our day number 45, which means today is our quiz day. At the end of every 5 days, we have a quiz. Yesterday was day number 45, which means today is quiz number 9, right there. Let's get going then. Quiz number 9, starting with day number 41. Well, we learned 3 words there. Arduous, which means something that requires a great deal of physical effort. Something that requires great deal of physical effort. If something is difficult because it's intellectually challenging, because it requires some thinking, a difficult problem, a difficult math problem, or difficult any kind of problem that requires a lot of thinking, will not qualify as an arduous problem. There is no such thing. Arduous simply means it's difficult because it requires physical effort. The synonym for arduous would be strenuous. Arduous, strenuous. And then finally we learned the word laborious. Now laborious is exactly what it says. It means requiring a great deal of labor. Again, physical labor. That's all. The three good words to know. Strenuous is very straightforward, so is laborious. Is the arduous that I was looking to achieve. Arduous, these are all adjective. These are all adjective. While I'm at it, something just occurred to me. I don't know if it's going to work or not. I'm just checking something. Just give me 1 second, be patient. A word comes to my mind, but I don't want to say it because I might be wrong. Nope. Anyway, so that was it for the 3 words that we learned on day number 41. Finally, the last word we learned on day number 41, which has nothing to do with these 3 words, it was completely unrelated word, and the word was alright, that's the end of these markers. Oh boy. Like a fool, I bought 12 of these of the same kind, and now I don't like them because we cannot erase them nicely. If something is cheap, it's cheap for a reason. I wasn't looking for cheap, I was looking for the markers that I usually buy, but they were out of it. I wanted to buy a pack of 12 black markers, and they were out of the brand I buy. The last word we learned was anecdote. Again, I'm reminding you, if you want to learn the pronunciation of these words properly, and if you want to learn this word in depth properly, then you have to go to the day where they covered it. These are from day number 41. Just type in Keshwani Prep -vocab day 41 and you will learn all of these words. Anecdote. What is an anecdote? An anecdote is a short, humorous. How do you spell humorous? A short funny story, a short humorous story is said to be an anecdote. When somebody tells you an anecdote, The narrator does not expect you to start rolling on the ground because it's so funny, on the floor because it's so funny, but it does engender a little chuckle, an anecdote. Usually politicians like to start out their speech with an anecdote because they think it's cute. Anyway, so that was that. Let's go on to day number 42. On day 42, the very first one we talked about was incognito. Again, one more time I'm reminding you, these words are covered nicely and properly and in depth with the pronunciation on the day that when I covered it, which is day number 42. Keshwani Prep -vocab -day 42, and learn the word properly before you come to the quiz. Because quiz I go very quickly because we're just trying to see if you have learned the words. That's all. It is a quiz. We are not learning the words for the very first time. So there should not anything be here that is completely alien to you. There should be nothing here that you're looking at for the very first time. This is a quiz. Incognito. It means in disguise. If you are in disguise, if you are concealing your identity, you are incognito. Incognito comes from the word cognition, which simply means knowledge. So incognito, in here, the prefix in means without. So incognito literally means without knowledge. Without knowledge as in, I have no knowledge who you are, I do not know who you are, I cannot tell your true identity because it is in disguise. The last word we learned on day number 42 was cognizant. To be cognizant of something means to be fully aware of something. To be fully aware of something. And the noun is cognizance. So if you know something, if you're aware of something, you might say to somebody that yes, I have the cognizance of it. I am cognizant. I have cognizance. I have the knowledge. I know it. I'm aware of it. That's what it means to be fully aware of something right there. On day number 43, let's go to day number 43. On day number 43, we talked about only one word. This word here has two meanings depending on how it is pronounced. Two meanings, and it is used as two different parts of speech depending on how it's pronounced. If you pronounce it as converse, as in talking to somebody. Oh, my handwriting is... to talk. And of course, the noun of converse, the word converse, the noun is conversation, which is a very straightforward, that's a verb, not a noun. Converse is a verb, very simple word, very straightforward word, everybody knows it, converse, to have a conversation. But if the same word is pronounced as converse, notice the ending of the word is pronounced exactly the same way. The same ending. The difference is converse and converse. If you pronounce it as converse, not converse, converse, then it is no longer a verb, it is an adjective. And it means opposite or contrary. I think you hate her. Just the converse is true. Just the converse is true. Just the opposite is true. I do not hate her. I actually like her. Converse. Converse, converse. Converse means opposite, contrary. Let's go on to day number 44. Let's see what we did on day 44. I do not know why I had that urge to cover that one word in that one day, just one word, but that's what we did. The very first word we learned on day number 44 was callow. What does it mean to be callow? It just means to be a beginner. Callow means a beginner, an amateur, an inexperienced, person. And then after that we learned 3 more words which are all synonyms of callow. Good words to know for the GRE or GMAT or SAT or TOEFL if you're preparing for any of these exams. These words are not just good for the sake of learning the words themselves, which of course expands your vocabulary and gives you a greater command of the language. That is an and in itself, but these words are particularly useful, especially useful if you're preparing for these exams, because they appear, that's the whole idea, they appear all the time. These are good words to know. And they appear all the time in these exams because the people who give you this exam, they're trying to see if you have the command of the language, command of the English language, do you possess the vocabulary that one would expect from someone who is considered to be an educated person. Do you understand? Callow, novice. Oh no, what's a novice? A novice is a beginner. Somebody who is starting out in something is called a novice. Callow. Neophyte. It's pronounced ne-o-fight. But it is not ne-o. Some people go around saying neophyte. It's not neophyte, it's neophyte. Neophyte, novice, callow, and finally tyro. I think we should retire this marker. It is dying. It's towards the end of its life. And these markers that I bought just now, they're no good. Alright, that was it. Again, so we have 4 good words which mean, they all mean the same thing. They are all synonyms. All of these 4 words mean a beginner, an amateur, an inexperienced person. Callow, novice, neophyte, tyro. Finally, the last word we learned on day number 44. The last word we learned on day number 44 was pithy. What does it mean, pithy? It's an adjective. A pithy comment is something that is short and yet full of meaning. A comment or a saying that is short yet full of meaning, or if you like, impact. It makes an impact, it has a punch to it, it has a oomph. I'm using real good vocabulary now. Something that is full of power, something that is full of impact, something that is full of punch, as I said. And for those of you who do not know, it's a slang, it's not a real word. Oomph, they call it, Americans, which means punch, power. Something that has that kind of effect. It's powerful, it has an impact, it is very short, very sweet, very short, full of impact. Such a statement is called a pithy statement, a pithy comment, a pithy saying. A comment that is cogent and yet TEAS. I started out writing with the S because I was going to put down the word succinct, but I don't want to go there because we have not learned the word succinct yet. So we'll learn it some other time. Perhaps I should make a note of it so that we know we need to cover it. Succinct. The tricky part about the word succinct is knowing how to spell it, which is not really a lot to say in my case because I do not know how to spell any word. So succinct has no. There is the word. TEAS. Succinct is called. Succinct, brief, terse, short. And what is and this word here, terse, as I told you, we did cover it, we did learn it. We learned it on day number 16, which means short, brief. Cogent, what does cogent mean? It means persuasive. We learned this word on day number 7, cogent. It means persuasive. And if you are being persuasive, if one is being persuasive, one is said to be cogent. If one is being cogent, one is said to have cogency. Cogency would be the noun. If one has cogency in one's statement, one is being cogent. One is being brief. Oh, sorry, rather persuasive. One is being, if you're being persuasive, if one is being persuasive, if one is being convincing, one is said to be cogent. One is said to have cogency. So that's what pithy means. So pithy comments are very brief comments, very short comments, and yet they are very convincing, they are very persuasive, they are very cogent, and they are full of impact. For example, proverbs are usually pithy. Honesty is the best policy. Honesty is the best policy. That's very pithy. Gold is silence. But gold in silence is full of such wisdom. Gold is silent, because a lot of the time people go around flapping their gums when they have no business saying anything at all. They have nothing worthwhile to say, and yet they speak just for the sake of speaking, because and they believe that speaking is substitute for the lack of some intelligence or whatever I want to call it. But you get the idea. And from there we have the saying, silence is gold. It's very pithy, full of meaning, full of impact. Honesty is the best policy. What else we can think of? There are many pithy comments, very pithy sayings and so forth. I gave you a whole bunch of examples the other day, on day number 45, as a matter of fact yesterday. I gave you a whole bunch of examples. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, that's pretty pithy. The examples that I just gave you, they were all proverbs. They don't have to be pithy. Something pithy does not necessarily have to be a proverb. As a matter of fact, proverbs are usually not categorized as something pithy because that's what they're considered to be to begin with. But usually if you make a comment which is so full of wisdom, is so deep and so brief that it really makes an impact, the listener might say, oh, what a pithy comment. The very first word we learned on the day number 45 was proverb. Proverbs are short, pithy saying, short, pithy sayings that is in common and widespread use. They are used very often. I gave you some example of some proverbs. Honesty is the best policy. That's very common, very widespread use. The proverbs, they express society's, they express well-known truth. They express common wisdoms, society's biases, society's prejudices, society's norms, values. Proverbs express. Oh jeez, this is getting quite atrocious. Okay, first of all, this marker has to go. Proverbs express common wisdom, well-known truth, well-known truths, they express proverbs, they express a society's norms, values, they express your norms, your values, your traditions. Your traditions, your biases, prejudices. How do you spell prejudice? Oh, I'm so bad. And therefore, because these proverbs are the accumulation of common wisdom over the generations, and they also express the society's norms, values, traditions, biases, prejudices. Therefore, proverbs are very customized to a language, to a culture, because languages are derived from a particular culture, and therefore it is very difficult to translate proverbs from one language to the other. They lose their impact, they lose their meaning. An apple a day keeps a doctor away. You try to translate it in any other language, it sounds downright silly. If I try to translate in my own language, it has no meaning. Nobody would understand it, it has no meaning. If you translate in French, it sounds ridiculous. Or German or whatever. It's not going to sound, it will have no meaning. And the listener, the German or French, would have no idea what you're talking about. Because they're very customized to that particular culture, the values and norms. They also express your biases, your prejudices, your norms, your values, your traditions, and finally, your mores. Mores is pronounced. Let's talk about that word for a second. Right here. I keep looking at the class because I don't want to go over mores. It's pronounced mores. It is a noun and it is plural. It does not come in singular. There is no such thing. If you take out the S, it has no meaning. It becomes more, like more than that. And it's not pronounced mores, it's pronounced mores. What are mores? Well, mores are these. Let's see if I can find a different color. What are mores? Well, mores are these. There you go, that's what mores means. It means norms, values, traditions, customs, the way of doing things. Those are mores. The mores of the societies are the norms, the values, the tradition, the way the things are done. After the word proverbs and the word mores, we learn the word after the word proverb and mores, we learn the words I know I mispronounce this thing throughout, but I cannot do the good job of it. Then we learn the word adage. It's pronounced ad. adage, maxim, and finally we learn so and cliche. Now I kept putting, before I started the video, yesterday also I did not check, and today I'm doing the same thing. I started taping it without actually, I'm looking for my cup of tea, which I also forgot to bring down. I forgot to check yesterday also when I was about to make this video, and today also I forgot it when I was about to start the quiz. I do not know, for those of you who know what I'm talking about, I do not know whether it should be accent aigu or accent grave. Cliche. This sounds right to me. Cliche is called. So, maxim, adage, proverb. They all mean the same thing. A cliche is an old, overly used expression. Something that is trite, something that is banal, something that is hackneyed. And if you want to learn these words that I just said, banal, trite, hackneyed, pedestrian, cliche. If you want to learn these words, you can learn all of these words. I covered them on day number 13, I believe it is. They were all covered together. If you have not done so, if you have not learned them, go ahead and learn them. You will find interesting things to learn there. Because you should wonder, why is this guy making such a big fuss about pedestrian? Because pedestrian has two meanings. Is the second meaning that you want to learn, and these were all covered on day number 13. So just type in Keshwani Prep-vocab-day 13 and you will learn all of these words. And that's what a cliche is. These are overly used expressions, and because of the overuse, they begin to lose their efficacy, they begin to lose their effectiveness, they begin to lose their punch, their oomph, because they're tried, they're banal, they're worn out. But anyway, that was the end of our quiz. That was the end of our day number 45, and that's the end of our quiz. Listen, if you wish to get hold of me for personal private tutoring, I provide private tutoring services for GRE, GMAT, SAT, and TOEFL for the entire exam, for the math portion as well as the other portions, face-to-face tutoring or over the internet via Skype. Just go to any of these website addresses and send me an email, or you can simply go to keshwaniprep.com and you can get a hold of me from there as well by clicking any of the links for the emails. All right, thank you.